What's going on, everybody? This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we have all kinds of news. I had a full show planned, ready to go for you, and then right when I was about to film, we had breaking news. So it took us just a moment to get everything set up the way that it needs to be. But I want to start today with what we've got on tap for you. We had a roster move with the Seattle Seahawks. There was a coaching news story, and unfortunately, we do have to have a convo around that story before we really dive into what it means for the Seahawks. Of course, we got to get into the latest injury report, and we'll finish the show off with a position battle. Now, that breaking news stories that I was talking to you about, well, the Seahawks, they waived a couple of players. So here are the two moves by the Seattle Seahawks today. Cam Akers, the running back that you signed, he has been waived by the Seahawks. The other player that's been waived is Shaquille Griffin, who've been playing cornerback with the Seahawks for quite a while. Now, obviously, those are the latest roster moves from Seattle. My initial inclination is that you're about to see a couple of these guys that are on injured reserve that we're going to talk about come back to the squad. Remember, you can only have 53 players on the active roster, and the IR players do not count as those. So the reason the Seahawks are moving on from Griffin and Akers is because I think you're about to see a couple of guys get designated to be back on the squad. Now, the coaching news that I do want to talk about is that Seahawks running back coach Kennedy Polamalu, yes, he is related to Troy. He is his uncle. He's taking a leave of absence from the team, and it is going to be personal. Now, that does mean his duties will be picked up by Justin Otten and Michael Byron. Now, the Seahawks are not going to dive too much into what's going on with Polamalu, and frankly, I understand that sentiment. Head coach Mike McDonald basically was like, look, I'm not getting into it, just that KP is going to be gone, and do not expect him to return during this season. So all I can say is that I hope, and with my fingers crossed, that everything is okay for KP, and I hope that one day, hopefully soon, he's able to return back to the sidelines coaching football, just like we all know that he loves to do. Now, we're going to dive into the injury report for the Seattle Seahawks. You can see here on this picture, it's a long photo with a lot of limited participants or no participants. Now, a couple of those no participants or limited participants were players that were resting, like Uchenna Nwosu, like JSN, but there are a couple of key injuries to note that we're going to dive into and go through. But before I do that, I do need to ask, and I need you to let me know down below in the comment section, is there a Seahawks injury right now that makes you nervous? Which player that is hurt, whether they're playing or not playing right now, makes you feel like, ooh, I don't know if we're going to get that guy back on the field anytime soon? For me, it's going to be the first player that we talk about here, and that's tight end Elijah Arroyo. Make sure you answer that question, by the way, down below in the comments. Now, Elijah Arroyo, where my fear is that his injury is a knee issue, and not only was he not a full participant in practice, he wasn't even a limited participant in practice. And, well, I think it's fair to say that Arroyo hasn't completely blown the doors off of anyone by any means. He is not going to win Rookie of the Year this year, and I think that's fairly obvious. I do think it is important to know that Seattle will be missing something important if he's not able to go out on the field, and that's completely okay. But right now, I do not expect to see Elijah Arroyo out on the field for the Seattle Seahawks. Sometimes these things happen, right? Sometimes players, they get rolled up on, and they're not able to fully go. Head coach Mike McDonald said that it was going to be a long shot. When I'm looking at a Wednesday practice and the guy's not there out on the field, I don't see him being able to go, especially for a younger guy like Arroyo. He needs as much practice time as he can possibly get. So right now, to me, don't expect to see him this week. Dareke Young, he is returning to practice and doing pretty darn well with that quad injury. He spent some time on the IR, wasn't able to come back last week like a couple of his counterparts, Julian Love being one of those guys. But I do think it's important that Dareke Young, we dive into him being a full participant in practice. He is a wide receiver for this team, but more of his impact, as you can see from the stat line, was felt for the Seahawks when he was playing on special teams. He's that off returner on kickoff, as well as a type of player who can play on any of the special teams, kickoff, kick return, punt return. I do believe that you are going to see Dareke Young back on Sunday. I think the latest roster moves kind of tell us that, right? If the Seahawks are clearing up some space for some players, Dareke Young seems like a player that space could be cleared up for. Are we going to see him used a lot in the passing schemes for this team? No, probably not. And that's okay. You still need to make sure that you have players that are performing at the peak of their abilities on those special teams. And I'm excited to see Dareke Young back out on the field. Make sure that you subscribe to Seahawks Today for free Seahawks news and updates. You do not want to miss anything on your favorite Team 12. So make sure that you go on in, hit that subscribe button, and help us out. Now, the next player that I want to talk about has me the most excited. Rylie Mills was a full participant in practice. Now, he's obviously been dealing with that torn ACL that he suffered during the last college football playoff. There was a conversation, will he return? Will he not return this year? Hey, guess what? He's going to be ready to go. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that he will play this Sunday. I'm not going to come out here and say that he's instantly a starter for the Seattle Seahawks. In fact, I think it would probably be a mistake for the Seahawks and head coach Mike Macdonald to start Rylie Mills. What I do expect out of Rylie Mills is for him to be an added piece, a rotational player, someone that adds extra depth to this squad. I think he can really jump off the page for the Seahawks, and he's the type of guy that's going to be good in the run game and in the pass game. Will he be able to go this week? I don't necessarily know. I feel like he's got a good shot to be, especially if he's already a full participant right now. But I also wouldn't be shocked if the Seahawks said, hey, you know what? Let's make sure we give him that full extra week of rest before we activate him to the active roster. Very excited to see Rylie Mills out running around for this defense. Now, I do have some very exciting news, and I'm sorry that I'm going to take away from Seahawks time for just a moment. But please help me out and go subscribe to Go Ducks TV. That is our new Oregon football channel here with Chat Sports. I am going to be the host of the show. So if you love the Oregon Ducks and you want daily Duck content just like we do here at Seahawks Today, go on in and subscribe. And if you're a Husky fan or a Cougar fan, go and subscribe too, and then talk as much trash as you want to myself or to the Oregon fans. I love college football. I love college football fighting, and I think it's going to be a great channel that we're going to take to the moon as quickly as possible. So help me out. Please go and subscribe to Go Ducks TV. Back to the Seahawks. Sorry about that little delay there for the self-plug. Eric Saubert, it looks like he's going to be back here quickly for the Seahawks. Obviously spent some time on the injury report with that calf strain. Now, again, another player where stat line sucks. I mean, just look at it. His stat line, it's not good. He's not a pass-catching wide receiver. He's not a pass-catching tight end. He is a blocking tight end. That's what he was supposed to be when the Seahawks signed him. Now, I do think it is important that if Elijah Arroyo is unable to go, Saubert is the perfect player to come in and fill that void. He's the type of guy who can come in and add into that 12 personnel and add into the run blocking scheme. We've also seen guys in the past come in, like a Will Dissly, who was supposed to be a blocking tight end and then turned into being a pretty good receiving tight end as well. So you never know, but I do think it's important that Saubert might be coming back. Got one more injury report to talk about, an injured player to talk about. But before, I got to let you know about this insane deal going on right now over at chatsports.com/Seahawks shirt. Emerald City Football. I've been plugging it almost all season long. It's because I think it is the sweetest t-shirt that they got going on right now. Originally $35. It's now $16. Emerald City Football. It's the holiday season. You can give the gift of Seahawks football to someone in your life or to yourself. Just know that you got to click that link. chatsports.com/Seahawks shirt. chatsports.com/Seahawks shirt. One more time for the people who are hard of hearing. chatsports.com/Seahawks shirt. All right. The last important injury that we need to dive into and check out, it's Jarran Reed and that wrist. Now, what is important to note, Jarran Reed already has returned for the Seahawks and played after spending some time on the injured reserve. What I think is important to remember with Jarran Reed is that while he has mainly been kind of a rotational guy, he's come up huge with a bunch of tackles for the Seahawks, made a bunch of plays in the backfield, also has a sack and a half on the season. Jarran Reed adding into this squad and being able to play adds just even more depth, and you're finally going to see the full complement of what this defensive line can be. Now, you got to see Jarran Reed come back onto the field for the first time since being on IR. Did he impress you against the Falcons? Yes or no? Now, I understand there's some controversy right now around whether Jarran Reed knocked that ball out or if it was somebody else who caused the fumble. I don't care. Seeing Jarran Reed back out on the field makes me happy. So, yes, he impressed me, but maybe he didn't impress you. Let me know down below in the comments. All right, last thing. We got to talk about Jalen Sundell, his return. And I think this is important from Greg Bell. He's a great reporter for the Seahawks. He says that Jalen Sundell and Eric Saubert, they did return to practice, but the signs are pointed that Sundell is going back to center. I think I speak for a lot of Seahawk fans when I say we are being denied what we want. Anthony Bradford, despite a good performance against Atlanta, has had some very poor performances. We were hoping that there would be a change at right guard. And if there was going to be a change at right guard, that was more than likely going to mean that Jalen Sundell would move over to that right guard position. When you look at the offensive line depth chart as it currently sits, clearly Sundell is being listed as a backup as opposed to someone who could go in and vie for that right guard position. I think that's incredibly frustrating. I don't care that Anthony Bradford had one good game. I need him to have a bunch of good games. And I thought that Jalen Sundell kind of outplayed him. And Olu Oluwatimi is clearly playing well. Mike McDonald has said that. But at this point, there has to be a change at right guard. I'm done with it, and I'm over it. Cool, Anthony Bradford, you had a good game against the Falcons. Where were you against the Vikings? Where were you against the Rams? Clearly, I don't get to make the calls because I don't think he's going anywhere. I think if head coach Mike McDonald or offensive coordinator Klint Kubiak were going to make a change, that change would have been made. It hasn't been. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the Seahawks are not going to move on from Bradford. He is going to stay at that right guard position. And if Sundell is going back to play center, yeah, you might get that iron sharpens iron between him and Oluwatimi, but I want a three-way position battle for two spots. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to get what I want. Do you agree with me, though? Do you agree that Jalen Sundell should move to right guard and replace Anthony Bradford? Type A for agree down below in the chat or type D for disagree. Whatever your opinion is, make sure that it's heard loud and proud down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the show today. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We got Seahawks content coming out every single day that you do not want to miss. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time.